Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Yo, 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 and hello, fam. This is Ange for MS Squared. Welcome back. I'm so happy that you're joining in again and listening in. Or if this is your first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy February. Hope everybody had a great end to their first month of 2019. And I'm so happy that we are still going, you know? The winter's trying to hold us down, but we're not going to let the winter have it. This cold is really a feat for me because I feel like it really interferes with my wellness and my condition of MS more so than the heat would. I grew up in sunny Southern California, and I feel like my body became really acclimated to the heat in a way that, I don't know, it's just so much more appeasing to my body and appealing to my body physically than the cold has been living in the Midwest or I'm not really sure how to determine the area location of where I live, but it's definitely not the West, and it's definitely cold, and this Arctic vortex that's been happening has really been pushing the limits of so many people, and I am one of them. Even though I'm pretty homebody and pretty to myself, I don't really go out, I don't do snow. It's definitely felt, and I don't want any part of it, honestly. So I'm happy that time is pushing on, and I cannot wait for spring. Spring is probably one of my favorite seasons. I love what it symbolizes. I love the rebirth or the birth and the rejuvenation of everything after. You know, it gets brittle over the winter or dried out, and I'm excited for the spring to come. I'm really pushing for it, you know what I mean? And I feel like like I said, with spring, it has a sense of rejuvenation that it brings with it. I even got my spring cleaning started early this year. Last night I spent, or yesterday actually, I spent all day organizing my living quarters, like not the entire area of my living quarters, just my bedroom, where I do spend a lot of time in, because, you know, we sleep here. I think I spent a great time here. I already did the living room like maybe 2 weeks ago, and it feels like I can breathe. It feels like the room is breathing, which is great. It's very organized, very much more organized. I have a little desk set up so I can do the podcast and do different work throughout the day and not just be in front of the TV and be tempted to be distracted and all these things. Although I do have my laptop and there is Facebook and all these things that can also distract me, but it's okay as long as I, you know, commit to what I'm doing. I'll be all right. And speaking of Facebook, I want to let y'all in and let y'all know that MS Squared has a Facebook page, so go ahead and follow that. You'll be able to be informed on the shows that are coming up. All of the shows for this month have been put up onto the Facebook page. And if there is is a certain topic that maybe you want to listen to or you don't want to listen to, you can have that sort of guide for this show specifically to let you know what type of content will be covered. And also, you can also email me at ms.a@gmail.com. So that's going to spell out Miss Ange at gmail.com or msange@gmail.com, which I've always thought that was pretty cool and cheeky and quirky, being able to have that sort of wordplay or letter play, if you will. Also, while I'm on the topic, MS Squared is on Instagram as well. I'm going to be expanding my activity on there. I haven't really been active, but I hope to bring better content on than I have been on there. It's probably the newest addition to the social media expansion of the show. So if you are on Instagram and you are a grammer and you're into that, go ahead and follow MS Squared. You can find MS Squared at m.s_squared, or you can just go ahead and search AHH&J again, and I should come up. My face should literally come up, as well as the MS Squared Instagram. So I wanted to go ahead and check in a little bit. I have been a little out of sorts, sort of. So it was my partner's birthday this past week, and we spent 3 days celebrating together, which was really just, him taking 3 days off of work, which was really nice to spend time together. I did tell you, I did talk about time managing last week. I didn't so much do that this week. I sort of just let the 3 days happen. We did whatever he wanted, essentially, which is really a lot of also what I wanted, so I'm not going to totally put it all on him. But I definitely was out of sorts because of that, and I didn't realize on Sunday that it was Sunday until Sunday was more than halfway over, and I totally missed the broadcast for last week's episode. Luckily, the episodes or the doses of the podcast, they rerun throughout the week, I believe on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I will be able to catch up on that, though I've heard it. I have all the files saved. I really wanted to tune in every week to be my number one supporter, you know what I mean? And that sort of brings me into the topic that I'll be talking about today, which is #CelebrateYou, self-care and preservation. So this dose is going to be like a half dose or like a part 2 dose to last week's dose that was administered, that was shared with you all, where we talked about managing time, money, and energy last week and how I do it personally. So last week I spoke about how celebrating ourselves is important to overall health and giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt and the credit for any and all of our accomplishments, how that is sometimes greatly overlooked and greatly avoided, maybe unintentionally, because we are so focused with our health. We don't really focus on celebrating us, unless it's like communal celebration or something, or some like a graduation or something of the sort, I feel like that every accomplishment that you have should be celebrated, and maybe not a grand scale way, but definitely an intentional celebration. And when it comes to celebrating, I like to celebrate by continuing my self-care. And what I'm implementing and working on implementing for this year, especially, it's a major goal of mine is exercise for the body and the brain. And I think that is so important. I am definitely someone who loves puzzles and games and things like that. I love to write, so exercising my brain, it has always been a part of me. Exercising my body, definitely not. I did do a lot of sports in high school. I was involved very heavily in activities. However, after high school ended, that wasn't so much the case. I guess right after high school it was the case, but in the most recent years, it's been really hard for me to find that motivation and that just sense of know-how, or just remembering what I had done in high school, different warm-ups, routines, and different exercises that I did back then. I continued a little bit of fitness classes when I did my first few years of junior college, so a lot of dance classes and things like that. I cannot remember a lot of the warm-ups for the sake of me and the steps to routines and things like that, so I really have just been sort of trying to construct my own workout regimen, reach out to people who do work out regularly and sort of see what they do, see how I can adapt that to work for my body. I've been watching this yoga channel on YouTube, which is really great, but some of the moves are just a little too intense for my body, so that's unfortunate, but I am not giving up. So self-care is so important, yet it's easy to forget and neglect. What can additionally make it hard is complications that we tend to experience day to day that really the complications that complicate getting these tasks finished and seeing them through. I also would definitely, if you're not already doing it, I would definitely suggest keeping a journal and logging different day-to-day occurrences and yourself that you recognize that you can use later to reference and maybe take into your doctor and your neurologist and see and let them know where your body's at. Maybe they will have suggestions for you. Just as long as you understand, as long as you're going to understand how your body is working, then that's the most important part, I think. You should always try to delegate time for doing things that you love. I think that's a part of celebrating yourself as well, because you're giving yourself that time, that attention, that energy to do what you love. Hobbies are great. And hobbies can be so inspiring for me personally. I love doing the show, and it's really inspiring, and getting to get feedback from listeners and from doing interviews, and hopefully more of those to come soon. I'm able to broaden my perspective, and not only that, but have a greater understanding of how of things that I can do for myself to make my situation better and make my condition bearable. So that's really nice. Like, for instance, speaking with Joy Tawny, one of the things that she really hit on was exercising and the amount of activity that she intentionally puts forth and what she uses as inspiration to put energy into putting that exercise on the top of the list, or at least really close to the top, in addition to, you know, doing what she loves, doing her art, being fantastic at that, and then in congruency, taking care of herself in the necessary ways. So that's really nice. And like I said, from that, it's really, from that interview, since that interview, I've been really spearheading my own sense of wellness, and I am establishing what is good for me and what my boundaries are. Boundaries are so important to have, like I mentioned in last episode. I also mentioned last episode that I like to eat for health. So eating for health, I believe, should be over but not exclude eating for pleasure. I think eating for pleasure can be part of a celebration. I think eating for health and pleasure are both celebration, you know, because it's a way of giving back to yourself that'll benefit you in the long run, and in a way that is a form of celebration in my eyes, in my mind, and my point of view. So also, one of the major things that I want to sort of drill in is like mental and spiritual preservation and self-care, and how engaging in mental and spiritual practices can preserve your sense of self and your sense of health and self-care. And like I was mentioning, I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before, but I was mentioning Marie Kondo, and she's an amazing organizer from Netflix. She has a show. That's where I came to know of her. I watched her entire Netflix series where she just goes around and helps people who have reached out to her declutter and get their life together. Like I said, I think she's a genius, and I think that a lot of her principles, if exercised properly, and properly means in a way that's beneficial to you and not hindering to you, where it's not stressful, where it's not overwhelming, which can be a lot of things for us. A lot of things can get overwhelming, but we don't want that to be a factor. We want to avoid that and prohibit that as much as we can. So yesterday I focused on one room in the house, in our apartment, and I went at it, you know. Mind you, like I said, I did clean and organize our sleeping quarters. So now it looks like the room has room to breathe, has space to breathe, which is really nice. It's not as thick, and everything's sort of cleared out. I have not touched the closet. That's like a whole another room to itself. So that is my goal after I finish recording today, that I'm going to tackle. And one of the things that I learned a long time ago is that working on the house and cleaning and things like that can be a form of exercise. And yesterday I definitely felt it. I was moving stuff, I was bending, I was, sweeping, using full range of my range. It was really quite strenuous, and I definitely felt it. As I was sleeping, it was something that I didn't realize would happen quite so much, and it's not something that I'm gonna shy away from, because it is so important, and I don't get enough physical exercise. I've done yoga for all of one day since I started again. I used to do yoga in high school and in the first few years of junior college as well, in addition to dancing. So I was believing that I would have that muscle memory, but I don't quite have that muscle memory because my muscles are fatigued due to MS. So that's crazy. Well, not crazy, but that's just the way the cookie crumbled for me. And so I'm trying to re-engage those muscles as well. I unfortunately have not been, well, I don't know if it's unfortunate so much as it is just so. I have not been on medication for MS for about 3 to 4 years, maybe even longer. And it further surprises me how well I'm doing. I did see a neurologist about a year and a half ago, so it's definitely time for me to see a neurologist again to see just where the status of my MS, my lesions are at. And that is actually one of the tasks that I had set to do tomorrow, is to contact the doctor and reach out to a neurologist. I don't even know who my neurologist is since I've moved out here. Since I've moved from California, it's been quite a challenge, but I am focusing on really nourishing myself. I believe that I really have been focused more so on my ability to do things rather than the importance of celebrating and nourishing myself throughout these past few years. I was really wanting to work, and I did that, and it was great, and I hope that I go back to work. But at the same time, not working now is a good lesson for me, because it is giving me time to take a step back and look at some of the more detailed parts of life that do tend to get looked over. And I really am taking that all into consideration and to heart for myself. And I feel like it will be beneficial in the long run. I know a lot of us millennials specifically who are working and have this condition, work can be so important to us. Work is so important to us. And for all you millennials working out there, I am not telling you to stop. I am not advising that you do. I'm just saying, for me personally, I could not continue working how I was working. So I'm not taking that as a L or as a loss. I'm taking that as a learnable occurrence, a lesson, and taking that as opportunity to take time to really engage with myself in a more meaningful way when it comes to having MS, in a way that I think I've been avoiding, honestly. So, I don't know, first step, as they say, is admitting. And for me, I am definitely working on that. So I'm going to be hopefully I'm going to be trying to get together an interview, like a 2-part interview for next week's show. And it's going to be about relationships that I have in my life. And I want to talk to people just about, when it comes to me and having MS, how it affects them and things like that. So we're going to get that together. Hopefully I can get all the participants that I'm reaching out to participate already. And until then, don't forget to follow the Facebook page for MS Squared, as well as the Instagram, and go ahead and email me anytime with any questions, concerns, anything. If you have a part of the broadcast that has hit home for you, maybe, I'd love to hear about it. Sometimes, I've been hearing crazy numbers like 100,000 people, young people, millennials, or 100,000 people have been diagnosed with MS before the age of 18, and I did not realize that. So if you're one of those people and you are listening in, I would love to hear from you. So in addition to that, just have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for listening again. And also, don't forget to check out all of the awesome content and informative shows featured on MS&Me Radio. I cannot wait to be back next week. Same time, same place. All right. Thank you so much, and take care. MS Squared out.